Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host, the expert Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 266. Hope you're amazing as always. I really do. It's the 8th of April today. Time's going fast and we're still in a really chaotic time, an unknown and uncertain time. And it's really strange to be in, don't you think? You've got some people not believing it's happening. You've got nurses and doctors dealing with all the patients that are flooding into the hospitals. You've got the UK Prime Minister in critical care right now with the virus. It's a strange time, right? So everybody's kind of uncertain. And for us entrepreneurs, man, it could really make or break you. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not meaning to be down. No, it's the opposite. I see opportunity. I see inspiration. I see creativity. I see what human beings have done for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. And what's that? That's adapt. That's evolve, right? Do you understand that? And there's nothing different about this. The brain wants to adapt. That's straight neuroscience, right? The biology and the chemistry inside of us, it wants to adapt, right? We want to evolve. That's what life actually does. It survives. We could talk about Richard Dawkins' The Selfish Gene, his book, but that's what this is. I keep saying the statement, only the strong is going to survive. Now, everyone's going to be all right. You'll be all right. Everyone will get through this. But as an entrepreneur, if you've got a physical business, you might want to look at what that really is and what you want to do with it, because everything's obviously for safety is going to be digital. It's moving that way, right? Do we know if we don't know how the world is going to be different after this? We really don't. And because of that, right, there's a kind of a window right now in the world. There's like a door that's been left open. And we can be creative, we can hustle, we can drive forwards and create something very special. I really believe that the people that you see all over or online, like the gurus or the mentors or whatever you want to call them, right? The thing is about this now, is if you get really clear with your mission, your drive, why you're building what you're building, you can leap ahead of all of these people that are famous online right now. Don't believe me? It's true. It's true. Because there's so many eyeballs looking right now. There's so many people wanting support and help. I really believe the mentor and coaching space is never been more needed right now, right? So for the mental performance, for your business performance, I really hand on heart just believe this is the time that, one, if that's who you are, it's this massive opportunity, right? And if you're coming from real purpose of, I just want to help, then guess what happens? People start to come around you because they can smell people that are using this opportunity to make money off people. It's not about that, man. It's not about that. What it's about is service. It's about giving. It's about support and helping and showing your value. That's what's going to make you stand out. And guess what? When people are ready, then they're going to come to you to be able to help them get through to that next stage. This making sense? I don't know. I'm going on a rant already. I'm quite passionate today. And so I just want to give you some love, give you some support, and to let you know whatever level business you're at, I'm here for you. If you want to blow it up, I'm here for you. If you want to take things to a whole new level and really make your brain bulletproof, guess what? I'm here for you. That's what I do. And today's episode, I give you a little taste of that. I got interviewed by an old client of mine, Jason Katzenback. He's the co-founder, I should say, with Matt Clark of Amazing.com. They also run the biggest Amazon training company in the world, the Amazing Selling Machine. And this guy's amazing. I've known Jason for quite a long time now, and it was really cool that he brought me on. And we did. This is the crazy thing. This interview, he goes, it'll be about 30 minutes. It nearly went for 2 hours. We just kept riffing, right? We just kept riffing. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's Jason from Amazing.com's. It's their property, right? But what I am going to do is share a couple of clips. And then if you want to watch the full video, I'm going to put the link in the show notes and you can certainly go there. And it's advisable too, because Jason, besides being an absolute rock star, he's been through a lot of things in his life and he's got a lot of wisdom and yeah, it's powerful and painful, and he's going to share that with you. He really is. But what I loved about this interview was, one, it allowed me to really go into very specific tactics and systems that I've developed over 18 years of doing this, working with people like Jason, some of the best in the world. And what I want to show people is the difference between self-help, right? I don't do self-help, and it drives me nuts, right? There's enough people out there who are sharing fluffiness and air, right? Making people feel all nice. That's cool. That's cool. There's a market for that. That's not me. I'll give you lots of love. Don't worry about that. But what I do is mental performance. What that means is about getting complete control of your brain, your mind, your emotions to be able to step into any pressurized environment and be able to perform. And that means product launching. It means going through IPO. It also means getting an idea out your head and putting it into the digital world, right? It also means expanding. It also means looking at different income streams or what your wiring is automatically towards people, places, things, the future, the scalability of your business, your past. We want you to have such a dialed in brain that it automatically, habit-wise, plays the world that you want to live in, right? So if you think of the past, look at it this way. If you think of the past and everything that comes up in your brain is mistakes you've made, money you've lost, business partners or people that have ripped you off, your trauma from childhood, that becomes like a weight. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how much skill set that you learn, right? You could have the most skill set in whatever you're doing in the world right now. You could be building a beautiful business and it's doing great. That's awesome. That's a skill set. And you're going to get success. But it's not going to be to the level that you think or you want. The other side is you could have the best mindset in the world, right? But if you don't have the skill set, the truth is you're not going to perform at the level that you know you can. What we have to do is master both worlds. And people don't understand about what mental performance is, so they don't know how to master it, right? But in this interview, you're going to see some of the tactics and strategies, a little taste of them that I share with private clients. Again, this is about one thing. This is about getting you so aligned with your business that we can scale it from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 plus. And it doesn't matter what's going on in the world right now. We can look at you. I could literally diagnose what's going on in your head pattern-wise, and I can tell everything about how you're interacting with your business, money, success, sales, your relationships, health. What's going on in your head is how you think, feel, and act. It's how you perform on a daily basis. It's how you wake up in the morning. It's how you go to sleep. It's how you step into a sales call. It's how you think about money. It's how you think about closing deals. It's how you think about everything. And this is all on autopilot. So when you start to understand that every person ever that's won an Olympic gold medal had a high-level expert around them to fine-tune their performance in every aspect. There's no difference in business. That's what I do. I'm like a sports psychologist for business, right? For entrepreneurs. But we look at everything inside your business. So guess what? If that's you and this resonates with you, you need to be hitting those show notes up and you need to be booking to have a chat with me or one of my concierge coaches. We're going to work out what the right fit for you is, and I just want to help. I've got some amazing deals going on right now just because I want to help so much. And yeah, that's it. So if that resonates with you, hit the show notes up. Let's book to have a chat. And we've also got some awesome other things in those show notes. What else we got? Well, first of all, you need to be downloading your free copy of what? Well, it's my ebook, right? It's 8 levels to supercharge your brain, brand, and money. And it's called Rewire and Upgrade. And guess what? I'm going to put the link there. You could go there right now and get yourself that copy. And yeah, you should also do a few other things like get yourself the World-Class Performer Morning Audio. Yeah, I drop you into alpha waves. I reprogram you and rewire your brain so you're fired up every single day. People love it, and it's sitting there for you right now. And the other thing is, make sure that you are in the Facebook Incubator group. It's a free group. We got 3,000 people sitting in there, and we're doing trainings all the time. And just be in there. It's awesome. So I'll shut up. We're going to jump into Jason and myself helping the best way we can. And yeah, I will see you at the end of the show.
Again, I'm Jason Katzenback from Amazing, and with me today, a special guest is Andy Murphy, who is actually a mindset coach, who I actually got introduced to a few years ago, and for pretty much a couple of years, he was actually my coach as I was going through some hard times. And obviously right now, a lot of us are going through some hard times. In fact, the world is. They said that over 2 billion people are right now affected by this in some way or another directly. That's a huge, huge impact. Obviously, the news has been covering it all the time. And in fact, that's part of the problem, is that there's just this huge, huge overload of information going right now. And we're going to talk about that. I've been through personally a lot over the last couple of years, and I don't want this to be a negative thing. I'm going to show you that I do have joy in my heart every day. Not that I don't struggle sometimes, but a couple of years ago, I lost my oldest daughter to cancer. And last October, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. So going through those kind of things, I've had a huge impact on me on having to figure out how to reduce anxiety in my life. Things that I've done is I've quit drinking alcohol. I exercise, I eat right, I meditate, and I use different products. There's actually something called the Fisher-Wallace stimulator, which is an electromagnet thing that I wear a couple times a day. It's made a dramatic impact on me. It's helped me so much to be able to focus better, to keep things in perspective. And one thing you want to remember is, as stress comes up in your life, your mind kind of stores them. And then what ends up happening is all of a sudden you have all these anxieties. So suddenly when, for example, say that your spouse comes up to you and say, hey, we have to talk to the accountant tomorrow. And all of a sudden you find, your head's ringing, and just a little thing like that sets you off. And that's because you're not taking care of yourself in such a way that you're dealing with the small stuff. You've heard that saying before, don't sweat the small stuff. Well, that's so easy to say. And even meditation, oftentimes they say, when you meditate, you're supposed to quiet the mind. Well, that's not necessarily true, because it takes you a bit of meditation to start dealing with those thoughts, dealing with those processes, and it takes a while to get to a point where you're quieting your mind. But we're going to cover all that stuff, and we're going to get right into this. But right away, I want to let Andy introduce himself. So Andy, can you maybe just give a quick little 1-minute synopsis about like who you are, why you're qualified for this, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Welcome everyone. It's awesome to be here, Jason. This is a blast. I appreciate it, sir. And we can help a lot of people with this. And yeah, Andy Murphy, originally from Liverpool in the UK, lived all over the world for the past 18 years. I'm a neuro-linguistic programming master, trainer, and expert in mental performance. I've worked with everyone you can imagine, from superstars like Jason to Saudi Arabian royalty, to startups, to world champion athletes and fighters, and everyone you can imagine in between. And really what I do is help people get control of the mind. Because if you can control your mind, you control your emotion. You do that, we control who we are in that moment, which means, well, we can create results. And that's understanding the brain, the body, and how it's all connected, you know? So I've done this for 18 years all over the world, and I'm pumped to help you today.
Awesome. Awesome. So we're going to get right into this right now. You know, obviously people are full of anxiety. They're stressed. They're worried about the future. What is your answer to that? How do people deal with that?
Well, it's a crazy time right now. And it's what's interesting, I think this is the first time in maybe history that the whole planet's been affected so fast. So what we've got to understand is that we're all human, Jason. And that's the point. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or you haven't got a home. We're all human. And we all respond the same way to things, you know? So the unknown is the key word, mate. That's the key word, unknown. And just like you said before about the accountant, right? Somebody says, oh, we're seeing the accountant tomorrow. What happens? It's unknown. And so what happens is there's a certain part of our brain when we step into the unknown that's like an alarm system. It goes, wah, 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 wah. Are you in danger? Okay. Now, it doesn't mean you are in danger, but this fight or flight response, or the amygdala in our brain, well, that's like the oldest part of us. It's actually in your brainstem. So what do I mean by this, to put it in normal terms? It means that when we feel fear or we're stepping into the unknown, we're actually activating the oldest part of ourselves. That's the fight or flight response. So are we getting ready to put our gloves up? Are we getting ready to run? Or are we freezing because we don't know what to do? And this is just the way the brain works. So what's happened is the world's just been flooded with the unknown. So guess what everybody's done? Everyone's alarm system's gone off. And then everyone starts talking to each other about the same alarm. Are we safe? Are we safe? Are we safe? So that starts to get into our psyche. It starts to get through the media. It starts to go everywhere. And the thing about that is the unknown means that, well, think about how normal most people's days are, right? They do the same thing every day. They go to bed at the same time, they get up at the same time, they do the same job for a long time. So any disruption to that creates this panic. So what your first thing you got to understand is we're all human. We're all going to have this fight or flight response. We all get scared with the unknown. And what happens is that creates anxiety, stress, overwhelm, panic, right? And so because of that, what we have to do is start recognizing that you're not that special or unique. Well, maybe you, Jason. I'm talking about myself, mate. But human beings, we're not that special or unique. We're not. So what that means is that we have to understand that these are patterns in our head. These are things that are happening to us from chemical wires, etc. This isn't, what it means is, although we feel out of control, when we start to understand the brain and what's happening, we can start to feel in control. And I can go on and on, but does that start to make some sense, Jason?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like one of the things, that you understand, like you talked about the brainstem and everything, is the way anxiety works is before it gets to the logic component of your head, those emotions are firing off and all of a sudden it clouds the logic. And so, it's so hard to be able to understand. And that's why there's certain practices that you have to do.
Yes.
And it's really hard to sometimes do them because you've got all this noise in your head. And we're going to talk about that stuff. So 100%, that all made sense. The first thing I want to address so there's going to be people on this call watching this that they've been laid off, and our hearts go out to you. That I know that's hard. Like thankfully in the United States, there's been a stimulus package. There's a lot of things going on. I know I'm a Canadian. I live in the States. And I know even in Canada, they're talking about income tax relief, and there's a whole bunch of things going on. But that doesn't necessarily cure the right now, especially if you've been laid off. And there's also those people that haven't been laid off, but they're working from home, and now they've got all these new dynamics. I've been working from home off and on I quit my job back in 2005. And since then, we did have an office for Amazing for a while, but actually last March, we transitioned to, and I'm talking about a year ago, to a work at home environment because we felt that our company was at a level where it was mature enough that everyone could have a lot more autonomy. Oftentimes with a new company, it's really hard to do that. So I want to talk first of all to those people that are working from home, where they have no space from family to grow their business, and whether it be working for a company or working to grow your business. What advice do you have for people that are trying to, juggle this new dynamic?
Yeah, it must be wild out there. I've worked from my home or wherever I am in the world for a long time. And so it's very normal to just set up shop. Like I've got my laptop, my little things, I set up shop wherever I am in the world. That's my routine. But for people right now, it's tricky, and I get it. But the truth is behind this, it comes from pain always leads to confusion, which leads to clarity. Confusion leads to clarity. So right now what's happening is everyone's confused. You're confused with the workspace, confused with the future, confused what to do. So we have to learn to take control. And what I mean by that is we take control of our environment, first of all. So you could be in a one-bedroom apartment with 2 kids, right? That's not an excuse. And that sounds quite harsh, but what I mean by that, your purpose is your kids. Your purpose is the security of you're going to build in the future. By feeling or allowing the depression or sadness or overwhelm to take over, you're hurting yourself and everyone around you. First of all, we've got to be kind on ourselves, but then we've got to be able to take control with our purpose and our mission of why we're doing it. So the pain creates that momentum. So some people say to me, I've just got a corner of a room. That's all I've got. There's kids running around. I've got a partner in the background. How do I do this? Well, that corner of the room, you can make it your world. Okay? So what does that mean? It means that if you put a picture of Rocky on the wall, guess what? Every time you're feeling depressed, you look up, that's inspirational, right? I remember doing this in myself. This is called environmental anchoring. It triggers emotions in our brain. But what really is happening is you look at that Rocky picture, you look at the journey of Rocky, but then you also look at the story of Sylvester Stallone to get that role. So that creates this emotion inside of us, okay? So that makes us push on. The other thing that we've got to start doing is controlling what goes in our ears, because there's noise everywhere, right? So you probably saw me with these things in when I first jumped on. Yep. What's in there isn't music. What's in there is something called binaural beats. Okay, so I use these every day, teach strategies around these things, and they changed my life many, many years ago. So there's different settings depending on the alpha waves, beta, whatever we were using. But these in your ears, guess what they do? Yeah, they drown out the noise behind you for a start. But what else they do is they tune your brain in to be able to hold focus for a long period of time. So suddenly, what are we doing? We're controlling our environment, controlling what's in front of us, controlling what goes into our ears. And then it's about making sure that we have routines that lead us into being in that peak state or in that moment. Because you might have been dealing with kids or arguing with someone or feeling stressed 2 minutes before, but then suddenly we have to switch on and create magic. And by developing a routine, what that does is it starts to link or allow our brain to sequence together to go into flow. And the more we repeat that pattern, the easier it is to drop into taking action. Got the binaural beats in, we hold our focus and the brain for a long period of time. We control our environment by putting pictures up that inspire us. So what does that do? Well, it doesn't matter what's going on behind you, does it? Right? Because suddenly we're locked on. And if we're coming from passion, the mission, the pain that's going behind you, that you're going to make sure that you sort these kids out, you sort this family out, and it doesn't matter what's happening with the situation. The key question I want you to ask yourself is, how do I solve the problem? This is a problem. Okay, someone let me down. What's your point? Why are you telling me? Solve the problem. Oh, this happened. Okay, solve the problem. The internet dropped. Okay, we solved the problem. And if you get into that mentality, that we're in a constant state of growth rather than being that fixed, right? We're in a constant state of the future and growing into that ultimate version of us rather than holding ourselves back in a box of the past or pain. Does that make sense, Jason? I know I go on a bit of
100%. And first of all, and I'm glad you brought up binaural beats. And I'm going to make sure that we provide links and everything with the recording on here because we're giving some good resources. I use an app called Brainwave, and there's different ones. And there's one that I call it Quiet Mind. And when I have to do focus work, I put it in, and he's exactly right. All of a sudden, I surround myself with positivity. I make sure I have a sun lamp. I have like good lighting. I make sure I'm in a bright environment. And now I realize that all of you can't do this, but the reality is, when you have a choice on how you can act, how you can react to certain things. And I just actually posted a great quote on this yesterday on our Facebook page and everything. And it talks about, in these devastating times, those that face them with courage and determination win. Those that face it with fear and idleness don't. What we mean by that, courage doesn't mean that you're not afraid. Courage doesn't mean that I'm sitting there, I'm not afraid, but you realize that what you need to do has to be greater than that fear. So that and that's why it's always important. And, I don't want to get into, anyway, that's why it's so important to have a why. Yes. For me, I have a solid why in my life, and it's my family. And so for that thing, I always use this analogy. If you're on top of a building, and I was given this by a good friend of mine, John Gill. If you're on top of a building and the building across from there, and they put a 2x4, and there was a 20-foot gap there. And someone said, hey, I'll give you $1 to walk across that 2x4 to the other building. I mean, you'd say, no way. But all of a sudden, if that building was on fire and your child was on that roof, they wouldn't even have to ask. You would just run across that 2x4 because there's a greater why. And that's what we're talking about. There's all, it's sad to say, but life's not easy. And the older you get, the more trauma you're going to have in life. You're going to lose people. You're going to get hurt. There's going to be events like this in the world. And so you have to develop and change. If you want to live a long, happy life, you've got to work at it. You've got to be able to put things in place that help you fuel that long, happy life. And I know a lot of times people might be saying, oh, it's easier said than done. 100% it is. Me and Andy are not arguing that at all. This takes work, and it takes consistent action, doing it every day. And you might start today and see it's not working, but all of a sudden it starts working. You know, for example, if you find just with, even with alcohol, and I'm talking about this personally, I only used to have a couple drinks a day. You know, I'd have a couple glasses of wine at night, but all of a sudden I just cut it out. And within a couple of days, all of a sudden I'm like, I have that little depression in me wasn't there anymore, that little anxiety. And that just is just one little thing that all of a sudden was adding to everything else. So it's something that you have to stick your mind to, but keep doing it. But do yourself a favor, set yourself up for success, like Andy said. Create a work environment, first of all, that's positive and doesn't have a lot of distractions. Now, as much as possible, I understand if you're in a one-bedroom apartment and you have kids or a pet, there's always going to be distractions. But when you can, and just little things like those binaural beats, you put your headphones in and you listen to it, and all of a sudden you'll find an hour later, it's like, wow, was I ever productive at that time? I feel so much better. Now, obviously, there's other things like exercise and everything like that. But it's, again, getting into those routines. So awesome. Now, again, we're doing everyone on YouTube right now watching. I do apologize. We put the links in Facebook. So if you do have questions, if you could go over to the YouTube page and ask your questions there, because we are going to be answering questions if there's any questions at all. All right. So now let's talk about the third question. So what are ways, like, first of all, you know, people are creating more fear in their mind than there really needs to be. And it's just a habit. So, you know, how do you help people? What's your advice for helping people with that phenomenon?
Yeah, this is so important, Jason, that people understand how fear is being created in your brain. It's so important, because what people make the mistake of is thinking that fear is a bad thing. No, fear is a very good thing, right? If you're standing on the edge of a cliff, no, we need to be afraid, right? And that's the first part of understanding these 3 steps or 3 ways that we install fear. Because the first one I spoke about before, the amygdala, it's a real brain response. We do not want to get away from it, because that would make us a sociopath, right? And we don't want that. What we're trying to do is understand, we will become consciously aware of what's automatically or unconsciously happening, okay? This is how we start to take control. This is what I do, is called mental performance. It's not self-help. It's a different thing. So first way is the amygdala. The brain, right? You are going to have natural fear responses. The alarm goes off when we step into the unknown. Doesn't mean there's danger. It means we need to look at it logically, not react into it through the emotion, okay? That's the first place that gets installed. The second place it gets installed, well, it's through experience. So look at this way if it was swimming. Right? If you were learning to swim when you were young and someone just threw you in the pool, as a lot of people just do, and you had a bad experience, then what happens is you have learned that fear response. What that means is then you're going to have a bigger picture in your head of what the water is, your response to it, everything like that, right? So look at that in your business life. We've all messed up. We've all made mistakes. But we've all been ripped off. We've all been let down by somebody, you know? And so the thing is, that experience can start to build the pattern in our brain of what we don't want. And remember, every time something's happened to you, there's 2 ways to deal with it. We break down, and we go into the negative and we beat ourselves up, lack of self-worth, etc., etc., or we use that as a platform to grow, expand, and learn from. So when we get these experiences, you know, different things are going to happen. But with your businesses right now, guess what? Unknown, alarm, freaking out. But your brain is going back to all of the times that you worried about money, business, everything else. And the challenge with that is we understand the brain works like a muscle. And then we introduce a study of neuroscience called neuroplasticity. It means the brain can adapt and change to whatever is around it. That's epigenetics, that's genetics, but that's what's happening in the brain. The brain wants to adapt. So, but it also wants to repeat. That's the comfort zone, that's the safety. So if you keep going back over all of the things that have ever happened to you in business, that's building this muscle, right? It's building this muscle. There's a certain comfort, it's a dark little comfort to going back to what's familiar, okay? So when we understand that, then guess what? Well, the next step is to understand that that experience we can change through neuroplasticity, the brain. So we can make that choice. So the past doesn't define the future unless we allow it to. The third one is, well, this is what's happening in the world. This is defined. The third way we install fear is through culture. This is media, right? This is movies. This is anything that you're putting in your head. Now, understand what's happened. The world's just been flooded so fast with fear and doom, fear and doom, fear and doom. So everyone's brain starts to learn this. And there's a part of our brain which mirrors or replicates whatever it is around the most. Think about that, right? Go back to the drinking, Jason. If you've never drank a day in your life and you go and hang around with people who drink, what you going to start doing? Yeah. If you never exercised a day in your life, you go and hang around with athletes, what are you going to start doing, right? So your brain replicates. If we're hanging around with billionaires, we're going to be well on our way. We might not get there, but that's the point. But when we start to understand this, guess what's been flooded into the world? Fear. So guess what happens every time you watch the news? I had a family member. This is crazy. I went around the house. They have the news on the TV all day about the virus, all day about the virus, all day about the virus. All they're thinking about is the virus. They're panicking and running around, creating, well, fear. And when we start to understand the brain does that, why don't we take control? And taking control means if we understand that the brain is going to replicate what it's around the most, then why wouldn't we be obsessed with watching everything on Amazing? Why wouldn't we be obsessed with putting the good stuff in our brain, the books, the music, the YouTube videos, everything, put the right thing in our brain? It's called a mirror neuron. This means we're going to replicate and become who we want to be like, not who we don't want to be like. So when we start to understand the brain like this, we can take control. There becomes no excuses. Oh, I'm scared. Okay, well, we have material that you put into your head that's going to make you feel confident, you know? So does that make sense, Jason?
100%. And just little things, like you don't even realize this. If you're watching movies that are high anxiety, high action, like, as much as they might be fun to watch them, maybe right now is not the right time to be watching them. Start watching shows that calm you, that give you laughter. It's those little things, because again, as your mind is full, now it doesn't have room for any stresses. So any stress, all of a sudden it's making everything blow out of proportion. So, it's exactly like, it's not just food. It's definitely, like, I'd say equal to the food you eat. And food is so important. Please understand that if you're drinking 7 cups of coffee a day, you're going to be in a high state of anxiety compared to someone, cut back to 1. And I know you're sitting there, oh, I need my coffee. And it's like, well, you've got to pick your battles. And if you're sitting there right now struggling with this, struggling to make sense of the world, and I want to step back for a second. We're by no means like, and I know there's people in situations, for example, that have been laid off, and they're sitting there in a desperate situation right now. And our hearts go out to you. And we realize that there's little advice that can truly make a huge impact that'll erase that for you. And we're not saying it'll erase, but we're saying by doing these little things, it eases at least.
Yes.
And so when you're sitting there like struggling with all these things, it's these little practices that can just take it down a notch, help you just a little bit, making sure. And that's why, it's hard, and I saw a guy, it was a video where he threw rice and oil on the floor and used his floor as a treadmill because he didn't have, he had a linoleum floor. And it's like, that's exactly like Andy said, there's a problem, solve it.
Yes.
And with that, and that's where the courage and determination makes, it's like we all have fear, but if you just sit there and curl in a ball and be idle about it, and it just will get worse. Your body will want to shut down, and your body will get used to something. Your body, if you sit a lot, your body gets used to that and it'll want to do that. And so you have to force yourself. You have to get up and do it. And that's why there's shows I'm sure you love, but the way the world is, you can watch them later. When things go back to normal, start focusing right now on things that'll make a difference so that you're not creating so much fear. And another tip I have for you, and I know it's hard, there's so much news out there, but check the news just once a day and not first thing in the morning. So as soon as you wake up out of bed, don't grab your phone and check the news and what's the update, because it's not going to be different than tomorrow. If you're staying in your house and you're safe right now in your house, watch the news later, and maybe even try to watch it every second day, or just, one thing, and I know this is going to be political, and I am not, I'm a Canadian, so thankfully, I don't really have a stake in the government, but of course I do. But, one thing I do see Trump doing is he's trying to be optimistic on things. And I think that's very smart. Now, I disagree with certain things, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, so I'm going to leave it at that. But that's the idea, is we have to focus on positive. We can't be ignorant of what's going on in the world. But if you're just constantly looking at things, and you go on a CNN and they might have one nice, but guarantee there's going to be a story in there about somebody saying that this is going to last 2 years or whatever. It's like, you don't need to worry about that right now. What we have to worry about is day by day, get through today, get through tomorrow, and start building up. And a question that I want to ask you is, who are you going to be on the other side of this? You have a choice. You could sit there, and whether it's 2 months, 6 months, or 2 years, we don't know, but ask yourself, when this is over and you look back, how did you handle it? Who were you and who are you now? And I know for myself, I want to be able to look back at it with pride, that I feel that I did things that made a difference, that I made an impact on my life, and I did things that I didn't allow the situations to totally control me. And it's just an important, for me, this question works. It might not work for you, but sit that down and say, who do you want to be on the other side of this? And I hope that helps. Hang on one sec here. Cool. So we're going to go to the next question here. And I just want to remind everyone, the Facebook Live didn't work very well, so we moved everything to YouTube. So we do apologize for that. But if you click on the link, you can go to YouTube, and we're going to be answering questions if you have any, so you can pop them in there. And if not, great. Let's talk about this whole thing of feeling powerless and not in control.
Right. Yeah. That's probably the biggest thing right now, right? Because people they feel like the power's been taken away from them. They can't control anything outside of them. We don't know what's going to happen. The media, And what we've got to understand is a psychological term called potination. Let me explain what this means. And what do we explain? The media, everyone's pumping the fear in right now. So everybody's kind of on edge, right? Everyone's kind of on edge. Just with life. I went to the gas station, the petrol station the other day. It was like out of a movie. Everyone's like, it's like the zombies. And it's like, it doesn't have to be like that. Because what's happening, everyone is on edge. And potination means that once you're in that response or that fear response, it gets amplified. So what that means is like that it could be like, go back to that before, a horror film, right? You could watch a horror film and then that night be sitting in the house on your own and start to get, or hear a noise and start to freak out, but your house is safe. But because we're in that emotion, because we have those images pumping around our brain, we're on edge. And that amplifies everything around us. So when we start to understand that, it's beautiful. Because it's not overreaction, it's our brain tricking us to make sure, again, we're safe. Are you sure you're safe here? Because it's kind of scary. You sure you're safe? You sure? Okay. You can relax then. And when we understand that, it means we do what? Well, we can't control the outside, so we control the inside. So as much effort as you're putting into building a skill set, understand what I teach is that's a skill set. Beautiful thing. But the truth is a skill set, well, it can give you results, but it won't give you all that you want. You could have the best mindset in the world, but without the skill set, it's not going to give you what you want. There's an equation. We master our mind, our brain, we master our skill set. That together creates jet fuel, rocket fuel. And so it doesn't matter what the environment is. To tell stories about my own past, I've been homeless, I've lived in cars, I've not been able to afford food and rent. Doesn't matter. What next? What now? You know? I've got so many stories I could go back over that, but each one leveled me up. It leveled me up. It made me stronger. It made me solve the problem. So if you're sitting there right now feeling hopeless, overwhelmed, no control, understand, amplified, the potination. But besides that, no, it's a choice. It's an excuse. Because I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm not saying that, man. But going to the gym and pumping weights 7 days a week is hard too. But if you keep doing that for 90 days, for 12 weeks or whatever you want, guess what? On the outside, you're going to look very different. Well, it's the same with our brain. It's the same with our business, man. So that why that Jason was talking about before, that fire inside of us, the reason why we're doing and building this business, that has to come inside of you now. And you have to loop that image around your mind every time you go and get distracted or sabotage or go into a shiny object, right? Or look for an exit. Because the truth is, you're going to wake up tomorrow. The day is going to keep going, right? So all of this where people are Netflixing and chilling, I know people right now that are not Netflix and chilling and earning millions of dollars like in a weekend. It just depends on your perspective. But this is the point. It's the emotion. This is something I teach, and whether people disagree or not, it doesn't matter to me because I got a lot of wisdom behind this. It's the emotion inside of us at that time that creates who we are in that moment. It affects our belief and our attitude towards what we're about to do. So if you're in fear, how is your view of the world? What's your beliefs about what's possible? What's your attitude to getting tasks done? What are you saying to yourself? What chemicals are pumping around your body? What's your physiology, right? What all of these things, that's a fear place, right? A fear bubble, a world. Do you think from a place of fear and overwhelm, you're going to create results? Probably not, right? So we need to do something called the drive, a driver. We drive or change the emotion. It changes who we are. It changes our belief and attitudes towards what we're about to do. So again, we go to a horror film or we go to the Dalai Lama, right? Or Elon Musk. Totally different emotion, totally different view of the world, which means we're going to make totally different decisions. And that's what I really love to grow. I love to build entrepreneurs' brain from the old to the new, because the new, that's where you have inspiration, confidence. The future is open. Right? That's where you have creative ideas. Over here in the small version, the past, that's where what Jason was talking about before is where we get heightened states. We have to bring it down because you can't think because we're getting cortisone spikes in the brain. It means the brain's just full of chemicals and we can't get clarity. So we have to use all of these tools, and we have to use that passion, and we have to take control of our inside world so we can build our outside world.
Awesome. One thing that you said that I just want to hit on, because it's been something I implemented in my life for a couple of years now. Well, actually more than a couple of years, because it was while my daughter was going through chemotherapy, was every day I looked for moments I could just stop and everything was okay. Like you could be sitting home and your kid, like nobody's sick, everything's okay right now. Like, yes, tomorrow's uncertain, there's certain things, but if you could just take those moments every now and again to just stop and think, right now everyone's safe, we have a roof over our head, everything's good, and just enjoy the now. Just take a few minutes to relax and enjoy the now. Yeah, I'm not saying that's going to help you throughout the whole day, but it's going to give you moments of calm where it'll help bring that vibration down a little bit, because that's what a lot of it is. Like, the example my uncle, I remember he told me, because he used to tell me why he woke up at 5 a.m. He said, it's almost like I have bells going off in my head where there's just this vibration. And when he told me that, I said, yeah, that feels like an anxiety. And he said, yeah, it is. But when I get up and move and I do things, it goes away. And that always stuck with me. It's like action. Like if you just sit there, for example, let's say you wake up in the morning and right away you're anxious. You're worried about the day. Well, if you just sit there and lie in bed, that's just going to keep happening. It's not going to go away. It takes a moment. It's like, get yourself up and just just move, get up and just like enjoy. Like if everyone's in bed, if everything's okay for that moment, and just enjoy that moment. It's so powerful. It's such a little thing, but it makes such a difference on my life, because at the end of the day, you are not powerless. Yeah, you're not 100% powerless. Yes, certain things are beyond your control, but understanding that certain things are beyond your control, but what the things are that are in your control is where you get the power. And, the truth is, during these times, I know many people that during the last recession, 2008, that's when they became multi-millionaires, because they were able to fight through that and look for opportunities rather than just sitting there and like crawling in a ball and saying, I give up, I'm done, everything sucks. It's like, and it's so easy to get into that mindset because fear is so bloody powerful, but it takes every day having that courage and determination to get up out of bed and force yourself to do these things. So I hope this is helping everyone. If you have any questions, again, just post them, but we're going to keep going here. So the next thing we want to talk about, the huge thing here is focus. Like how can you focus, whether it is like doing whatever you need to during the day. Like, Andy, what are some tips you have for people to help them, especially when there's certain things that they have to get done that day? We did talk about some things earlier, but like right now, when you're feeling overwhelmed, how can you help people get focused?
Yeah, it's so important. It's so important. I mean, there's many actual techniques to extend and do our focus, but just on a general aspect, it's like, first thing, remove the noise. Remove what isn't important, right? Because what happens is we have a massive list of things that we think we've got to do. And then we have these to-do lists and we have all Trello and everything else, and it never stops. But the truth is there's probably only one or two tasks that you can actually accomplish and get them done maybe that day. And so that's the first thing. Remove the noise, get clear on what's going to be a needle mover. What's going to be that 1% shift that's going to move us forwards? That's it. That's all you've got to focus on. Second thing is the day. That's the focus. Not what's happening tomorrow, next month, next week, next year, or what happens to the world, or UFOs are going to pop in. It doesn't matter. We can't control any of that. What we can do is do our best each day. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, all we can do is our best. If you're feeling sad, do your best to become happy. If you're feeling overwhelmed, do your best to feel calm and get control. Whatever it is, just do your best. And then what we look at is something called batching, which batching means that we're chunking things down into manageable bite-sized pieces. So that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that if you looked at your week, it's like, wow, I can't get through that. But if we chunk it right down into the next task we're going to do, oh, we can do that. Then what happens is when we complete that task, your brain wants to then move on to the next thing. But we can't. When we complete that task, we have to pause for a moment and let serotonin and dopamine flood through our brain because we've accomplished something. At that point, then start the next task, because then we're filled full of chemicals, we've got a win, and then we move to the next task. If we don't do that, this could be, oh, I've got this done, right, the next thing, oh, next thing. This is the wrong emotion going through. You're going to make wrong decisions. I believe everything's got a frequency. And if you're blasting out these words in fear, man, and even a video, I think people feel it, you know? So focus, batching on the day, chunk it down into a manageable bite-sized piece, and get rid of the noise or anything that you can't accomplish now.
Awesome. Yeah, and we can't stress that enough. It's little things. I'm going to give you, so right now you see my hair, it's actually just growing back. One of the reasons I shaved my hair was to just remove one more stress in my life. I got rid of about a half of my clothes to remove one more stress. It's these little things in your life that you can do that all of a sudden help you. So when I wake up in the morning, I make sure at night, I get everything figured out and I lay my clothes out in the morning. So when I wake up, I'm not sitting there, oh, what do I wear today? And you'll be surprised how those little things, when I shave my head, I'm not recommending everyone shave your head. And I know there's been memes going around of what our hairs are going to look like in a few weeks with no salons. But the idea is if you can just remove some of those little things in your life that just add a little bit of stress, it helps reduce the burden. So I just wanted to add that little part to this too, because every little thing that adds to it causes a blurry vision. And so when you start removing them, you start seeing more clear and clear and clear. And all of a sudden you find it's like you're getting stuff done. And the hard part of this, and Andy, I know you can agree with this, when you're in a state of anxiety, sometimes you feel like you're always in that state, where your mind's just saying, oh my God, I feel like this all the time. And the reality is you don't. And that's why it's so important when you don't feel that way, you do something to remind yourself that, hey, I'm not feeling that way right now. Things are okay right now. And so you can refer to that the next day, and because you're going to lie to yourself. Your brain lies to yourself a lot. And your brain's telling you, oh, I can't stop this feeling. It's like, wait, no, yes, that's not true. Yesterday, I had a great time period. I remember being very happy. And think about those things, those little things about reminding yourself of 3 things that you love. And, try really hard not to always repeat the same thing. For me, I could say my daughter, my wife, and my new puppy. But there's other things. You don't want to keep saying the thing, and look for those hidden gems, those little things that are going to give you just a little bit clarity, that are going to help you with a lot of focus. So we got a great question actually that was just added. So I'm excited to answer this, but anything else you want to add on that I just talked about, Andy?
It's gratitude. It's gratitude. And when we become present in that moment, and how you remove from anxiety, remember, anxiety is triggered by the unknown of the future, right? So we can bring ourselves present, and presence mean, if we literally, like Jason just said, we start listing things that make us grateful, it breaks our focus down and starts picturing those things and start feeling those things. So when we can start to do that, it's a beautiful thing. And I love that you said, mate, don't keep repeating the same things, Something I do is like really deep trance work with people, because we're hitting the unconscious mind and stuff. And people go, oh, that track or that audio or that hypnosis isn't working anymore. Right. Because our brain gets used to it, and then we don't feel the same emotions. So what we want to do is keep mixing it up, because we want dopamine. Lots of dopamine spikes to go, you know what? I do feel that gratitude from that, because it's novelty, it's new. It's like, oh yeah, So it takes us deeper into the emotion that we want, or the person, or the place, or the thing, right? So yeah, it's beautiful, mate. Gratitude.
That's awesome. And you've got to remember your mind. Like, yes, your mind's primarily made up of kind of fats, but it's a muscle. You got to look at it that way. And when you talk about exercise, if every day you exercise at the same time and do the same exercises, it's going to stall. All of a sudden, you're not going to get gains. And in fact, you could hurt yourself. And so that's why it's good to mix it up. Sometimes different times during the day, mix up different exercises, because your muscle gets a memory, and all of a sudden it's now trained to do that exercise. So it knows what muscles to use and what ones to not use. So all of a sudden it's too repetitive. You're not gaining anything. But if all of a sudden, instead of doing these kind of curls, all of a sudden you're like just doing a different barbell, a different location, it stimulates growth. And it's the same with your mind. When you do different things, don't get into the same habit and just think, oh, like you said, this doesn't work anymore. Well, you're right, because it's worked as much as it's possibly going to be able to. So now you want to be able to stimulate it in a different way. So that's a great addition. I'm glad you said that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I got a couple questions here. So Martina, it looks like, I love this. What can help to stop thinking what others think about you?
Hey, I'm going to say the first tactic: get rid of them. I mean that. It's like, remember, everything's replicating around you. So if they're a negative person, or they're like judging you for building an online business or trying something new, then remove them as much as you can from your life. Remember, you only have so much time, effort, and energy. That's your currency, right? You can never, ever get that back again. So what it's to do with, honestly, it's self-love, it's self-worth. I deserve. Because if that person is saying all those things to us and it's affecting us, then what is it inside ourselves that we need to change to be able to make sure that that person, well, it's their problem. It's nothing to do with you. If you're doing your best and you know you're coming from truth and heartfeltness and all the rest of it, then the only thing your feet should be feeling is like, no, I'm doing my best over here. I'm giving all the love I can. I'm full of self-worth about what I'm doing. So it doesn't matter then about what other people's opinions are. Haters are always going to be haters, right? The more success you get, the more people are going to go and poke at you. So the journey of entrepreneurism isn't about business. It's really got nothing to do with it. That's you. That's your business. That's you. Your business is like a direct mirror or reflection of who we are at the time. I generally know if someone's business is on point, then their mind around that business is on point, right? There's other key areas of life, I get it. But if their mind's on point, the business is on point. The business is on point, I know the mind's on point. So for you, it's about growth. That's all this is about. And for you to expand past the haters or the people that are judging, well, that's you. Growing, evolving, getting full of self-worth, getting clear on where you're going, connecting with your mission. So do you think like people like Elon Musk might have had a few people say to him, what are you doing trying to take us to Mars? Why are you trying to build holes under LA? Why are you trying to, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Well, did it stop his purpose? No. He knew inside of himself that he's good enough. He knew inside of himself that the purpose is bigger than someone else's opinion who probably never lived your life. They probably don't know what you're trying to do or what you're thinking in your head. So to somebody, the reason why, I need you to understand this, the reason why they're poking at you is because of this. Einstein said it best. We get boxed in by a boundary condition of our thinking. They cannot see outside of the box. So guess what that lights up? We spoke about it many times. Fear, right? So they're poking at you to pull you into this box that they feel comfortable in. They feel safe in because they don't know the outside world. But if we expanded that box and you showed them that world, then maybe they'd understand more. But generally, they're not going to. They want to pull you into their little box of reality to keep you safe because they love you. But the truth is, we got to love ourselves more. We got to head towards our mission. And yeah, what you'll find is you become the leader. You lead your own ship and show these people another way to do life, because they will not come with you. They won't. So you have to show them a different way. Hopefully.
Yeah, I've got so many examples of this too. When I first started I'm a perfect example. When I first, before I started my business and I was working, I went for the management role, and I had a family member actually say I wasn't smart enough to get it. And it was like, but for me, I had a why. I had a wife and kid at that time, and I knew like I wanted something different, and that was bigger. I didn't listen to that person, and I still love that person, and I still love that person today, but it doesn't mean you have to like the person. Loving and liking is totally different, and I don't associate with that person because it's just a negative thing, and I have to, and because I don't want that negativity bringing me down. And so I got the job, and then after that, they tried making the excuse, oh, I didn't want you having too much, being cocky going into the interview. And I'm like, well, it didn't work. And then when I started my business, I had family members worried, like, what about pension? What about all these other things? And what I realized for them is it's their fear that they're emitting onto you. They're hung up on needing a pension. And so to them, that's where their fear is based. So they're bringing it out onto you. Now, that's a different scenario than someone being really negative. But with those things, it's like just accepting that that's their point of view, but you don't agree with it. And it's one of those things that's just agree to disagree. Now, then there's other sides of things. For example, smoking, drinking, not exercising. I know someone very well who their husband was trying to get his wife to stop exercising because he was afraid if she lost weight, she would leave him. And that's such a perfect example of how we do things in life and how people react. And you would never guess that because then he admitted his insecurity, and it helped them so much because it was obviously he had that insecurity. But oftentimes when people are putting this judgment on you, it's because they, as Andy said, there's something missing in them. And if they feel all of a sudden now that you're going to be a higher level than them in some way, it's like, no, you come back down here. I don't want to quit smoking. I need you to keep smoking. I don't want to quit drinking. I need you to keep drinking. All of those kind of things. Now, there's also the things that, like, I'll admit, I've been on stage in front of thousands of people, and there's times where you're just like anxious and you're like, am I going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? And then it's just be yourself, just be yourself. And there's like, that's such a hard thing because there's always going to be worried about what other people think in life. But then there's just got to be a thing where you just accept, I am who I am. And if they don't like who I am, I can't control that. I'm not going to be something different for them just because they're telling me. Now, that doesn't mean you be ignorant about it. For example, when I used to smoke cigarettes, I would never smoke in front of certain family members because I knew it upset them. That was a love thing. That wasn't me being fake. It was a respect and love for that person. So I made sure like I didn't want to do anything around them because I just loved and respected them. So that's one thing. Don't feel like, oh, I'm being fake. No, you're loving and respecting that person. But if someone is being harsh to you and like negative, and it's preventing you from being not only who you are, but who more importantly you're trying to become, what your goal is, the sad thing is I agree with Andy, it's like you've got to exit them from your life. And it doesn't mean you completely abandon them, but just back away. And maybe it does mean that you completely abandon them because at the end of the day, if it's making you a miserable person, my goal in life is I want to change the world. I want to affect people. I want people to be happier. I realize life is so hard. And my goal, what my why is my tombstone, is I want what my wife and children put on my tombstone, not to just be my name and say he was a hard worker. I want them to say he was a loving, amazing man that changed the world. And that's what's the most important thing for me. And so if someone's going to stop me from doing that, I'm not going to be around them, because you're preventing me from hitting what means the most to me in my life. So if that person's doing that, step back. You know, that's really what you got to do. Another great question here. We've got, and we've gotten some great comments like, this is gold, this is well needed. So that's awesome. Tina's got a great question here. I love this one. How do you deal with a significant other who has anxiety when you don't?
Hey, very interesting. So first of all, we got to get specific. What I mean by that is what specifically is causing the anxiety. So we need to know what that cause is. We need to know the root cause, because he could be, again, make believe in something else. He could be thinking about the past. He could be just, what is it? What specifically is causing that anxiety? So that could be a time in the day. It could be a day, like on a Sunday night. It's like everyone starts freaking out because it's Monday. It's like, what specifically is it? And from there, lead the ship. So just because you don't have anxiety doesn't mean that we shouldn't be having mental performance. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be meditating. It doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing routines and all of these things. So the best way to do it is to lead the ship, right? So he will then see you and follow, because right now, do you think he wants to feel like that? No, not at all. He doesn't want to feel like that. He's looking for a way out, and that's causing more anxiety, by the way. And you not having anxiety is causing him more anxiety. And then the situation, it's constant. So if you sat down together, one, you can talk about how or what, is causing specifically the anxiety. The second thing is, it doesn't really matter after that, right? You can talk about it, but then the nervous system's still going to be all fired up. So then we've got to take control. So that's routines, that's your audios, your hypnosis stuff, that's your binaural beats, that's your meditations, that's your eating correctly. I don't know his diet. I don't know his sleep patterns. I don't know whether he's using stimulants. I haven't got a clue, right? So all of these things, you might, again, like Jason said before, if you're having 7 cups of coffee a day, then it's going to create anxiety. So we've got to work out that baseline. But besides, once we've worked out that baseline, you'll probably be able to eliminate stuff. But then it's you leading the ship. And you develop a routine together that brings you together, and you go and solve this together. 1, you're going to feel amazing. 2, your business is going to grow. 3, your relationship will get better because you're bonding. And 4, he's not going to have anxiety anymore, or he's going to be able to manage it, which means he's going to be literally, and I mean this, and Jason, I'm sure will agree, he's going to be a different version of himself. He's going to be a different person. Because when you're in that anxious state, man, whoa, everything's chaos. You can be angry, you can be aggressive at people, everything just it's too much. So by getting him out of that, you're going to find a bright, happy, partner.
Okay, crew. There we go. End of episode 266. Love Jason? Gotta love Jason, right? And I really hope that you got a lot out of that. I really do. I'm going to put in the show notes the link to the video. Go and watch it. It's me and Jason on screen, which is kind of cool, right? Because you're always listening to audio. Second thing is, it goes on for another hour. so there's a lot of information in there, and just go and repeat, and you'll start to get the idea. And speaking of show notes, make sure that you're hitting up me. First one, what we doing? If you've done a course, building anything online, halfway through, tried before, or you want to move your whole life onto online, or you've got an idea that you want to get out there, or your business is expanding and you're looking at different income streams, or you're looking how to expand, or for you just want to really get this momentum firing and get your brain dialed in, so your routine, systems, everything in your head is absolutely on fire. So it doesn't matter what the pressure is, you are going to perform. Just like an Olympic athlete does, they have a team around them. you need the same around you. I've done it for 10,000 people, including the awesome Jason Katzenback. So I know if he can use these skills, then definitely you can use these skills. And what else? We've got to make sure that you are tuning your mornings up. And I've created an amazing hypnosis audio called the World Class Performer. I changed the word from hypnosis to install to guided meditation to trance. I don't care, whatever you want to call it to make yourself happy. But what I do know is you need to plug it in your ears every single day. It's going to rewire you so fast, and it's going to make every single day just flow. And that's what we want, constantly in growth mode. So what else we got? So you've got me, get in contact, right? You've got the World Class Performer audio, and you have the free, guess what? Yeah, incubator group. Get in there. There's so many trainings going on. And the thing that everybody should have downloaded is, guess what? Yes, my Rewire and Upgrade ebook. Go and get that for yourself. I'm going to put that link. Go straight there. You're going to love it. And yeah, we'll be able to connect very, very soon. Anything you need, let's keep kicking ass. You deserve it. And yeah, until the next time, much love. And I will see you on the next episode. Oh, one more thing. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.